Hi, Orange Girl here with another scrapbooking process video for you. I am working with a 2019 April Clique Kit, and here is my photograph. This is a photo of my daughter that we took while we were on vacation. And what I did is I went ahead and I pulled a bunch of the ephemera that has the big flowers and a few little flowers. I pulled some stems and some other things that came. All of that is Vicky Bouton stuff that came in the kits. And I'm just I thought about maybe a wreath, and then I ended up kind of laying these out like this. And I was like, oh, I kind of like that. I think I'm just going to go with like a horizontal look here and then add some pattern papers to it. So when I added this pattern paper, which I actually used kind of flowers and this same color scheme in my last layout and for Clique Kits, and part of the reason is because obviously I'm using the same kit, and so it's going to have a lot of the same things in it, but also because I absolutely love it. That green is just my favorite. So I am just kind of messing around here with some background papers and trying to decide what I like. And I grabbed this Heidi Swap striped page, and I kind of like that too. But I end up not using it. And actually, as I'm looking at it, when I'm doing this voiceover for this video, I'm like, I kind of liked it a little bit better than I liked it as I was working on it. But anyway, so I end up finding this paper, which is also Vicky Bouton, and it has a um, kind of like a sunburst kind of on the back with a bunch of different colors on it. And this side has a nice little floral that is just basically vines that are black and white. And I really like the way that looks. It's a little bit something different than just plain white paper, but it is, or white cardstock, but it isn't like overwhelming. It's a small print. So also you might have seen me, if you watched my video where I did the unboxing for this, I pulled aside or kept aside some of the packaging that some of the, I think it was the ephemera came in, and it has this polka dot, you can see it over there on the right, this kind of lime citron green polka dot to it. And I thought I might want to bring some of that citron color up to the top. So I use, that is packaging, and I just use that behind the photo, but I don't end up using that in the end. But I mention it here because I do end up using some of that packaging, but it also just to kind of keep that in your mind that that is an option of something that you can do. I grabbed this sticker. I think it says yes something on it, and I don't end up using that either, but I do end up grabbing, this is the rest of that packaging. This is like pretty thick, um, heavy paper, like cardboard almost. I don't know what to call it. It's more than cardstock, and I just went ahead and cut those two little flowers, kind of the orange and the big pink flower, and I'm going to use those. And then I'm cutting a few more out of this paper. So the opposite side of this floral paper is that kind of lime green citron paper that I'm using at the bottom of this page. So I have pretty much used this entire page of paper either as fussy cutting out flowers, or in this case, the bottom, probably 1/3 of my layout here. So the other thing that I pulled out ahead of time were these little um, banners, I guess you would call them. They're from Pretty Little Studio. That right there is a little sticker, and I'm cutting around it because I didn't want the white to be around it because none of the other flowers have white around the outside. So it was a sticker, and from the sticker sheet, and it had white around it, so I just cut the white off. And anyway, so what was I saying? I have no idea. What was I saying? I've fussy cut this paper a lot, and I've used lots of those flowers, and I still have a few left that I will use. So what I'm trying to decide is what I want on the top right of my photograph. Oh, and then the other thing that I had talked about was the Pretty Little Studio labels. I pulled those out, the ones that had sentiments on them that matched the layout, and the idea of what I was trying to go for here, but then also the color scheme. That paper right there is also Vicky Bouton, and I am fussy cutting some more butterflies out of it. I will, by the end, probably fussy cut that whole sheet of paper. In fact, I got extra of that paper because I know that I will use it over and over and over again. So I wanted to have a few of those butterflies scattered throughout my page, and now I'm going to work on some clusters here. So I'm trying to decide if I want to use these labels or not. And I do end up using some of them, but you'll see how it changes and morphs here in just a second. So I'm sorry about my lighting, but fortunately I happen to have windows right in front of me where I'm working, which is wonderful, but the afternoon sunlight often creates these lines across my page, and I try not to do any video during that time, but I needed to get this finished, and so I was like kind of on a roll, and so I just kept going. So what you're seeing me do there is I just went ahead and I used my adhesive to adhere all of this down to the page because I knew that I wanted the flowers. I knew I wanted the butterflies. And so then I went ahead with the title Out on a Limb because she literally is out on a limb. And so now I'm going to add some pops of color with some tangled thread. You know me and my tangled thread. So I'm adding some yellow underneath that yellow flower, and I added some pink underneath one of the pink flowers over on the left. And then I decided, if you remember, I wanted some of that citron or lime green up above to kind of tie the bottom of the page and the top of the page together. So I am using some thread to make that happen. So I'm putting a little bit of thread in the upper right corner behind those flowers. That is that same lime green. The other thing that I am adding is a little bit of orange thread. I'm not sure if I did that yet or not, underneath the top right part of the photo, because I have all of the colors there except orange at this point. I have the pink and I have the yellow, but I don't have any of the orange, and so I wanted to add a little bit of orange there. So one of the things that I do, one of my little tricks that I do when I'm making clusters is I try to, if I have a color scheme going kind of like this, I want to make sure that all of those colors are represented in each one of the clusters. So also sometimes it's objects. So in this case, I have a butterfly in each of the clusters. I have a pink flower, an orange flower, a yellow flower in each of the clusters, and I have some thread in each of the clusters. So I'm just kind of trying, and probably most of them at least have a leaf. So what I ended up doing here is I ended up going back to those banners and I cut off the banner part so that it is flat on the ends. So it looks more like a sticker maybe that you might have. And I pulled the one that says Free Spirit, and I'm putting that up in the top right hand corner. And then underneath where it says Out on a Limb, I have one that says Be Yourself and one that says Dreamer. And then I add one more that says Gypsy Heart right above the photo, and that one is in orange. And if you remember, I needed some orange there. And I toyed with the idea of adding a few other things, but I don't. Off camera, I went ahead and I added the date stamp. But other than that, I finished it off just with some of that thread and kept it kind of simple because the flowers were so big and beautiful that I didn't want to take away from that and the photograph. So thanks a lot for stopping by, and I will see you in my next video.